Morning, folks. Hope you're all doing well. I woke up the other day, and I was watching. I couldn't sleep. I'm a bit of an insomniac at the best of times, hence the red eyes and the glazed look most of the time. And I kind of woke up, and usually when I can't sleep, I shove on boxing videos on YouTube or whatever. And I was going through some regular fights that I rewatch quite a lot of Lennox Lewis, things like that. And it dawned on me that I miss the 90s heavyweight division. That's when I grew up. Now, when I was growing up, when I first got into boxing in 1990, my grandfather got me into it. However, he always used to say, boxing's not as good as it was in the 60s and 70s, son. And I used to hear that a lot, and I grew up kind of thinking that, well, the boxing I'm watching now must be crap, because, Grandad, who's a very knowledgeable man, says it was better in the 60s and 70s. So I grew up kind of thinking, or believing, that what I'm watching now, at the time, was inferior. Now, it's taken me to hit my 40s, middle age, whatever you want to call it, because they say 50s is middle age, but not many people live to 100. On average, I would say 40s is probably middle age, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. And I've finally become my grandfather. No matter what you do in your life and how hard you try, we all end up like our parents or our grandparents. And I find myself now making this video, talking to you folks, moaning and complaining about modern heavyweights. It's the heavyweight division I'm focusing on more so today, not... if I was going to talk about boxing in general now, I'd be here all day. I'm just concentrating on the heavyweight division. Now, you go back to the 90s, when I first got into boxing in 1990, the first big fight that got me into boxing. Boxing was always a big thing in our family. My grandfather boxed in the army, my dad boxed in the army. Both fans, it was always on in the house. Both grandfathers actually were big boxing fans. My mother was a fight fan, it was always on. But the night that I became a massive boxing fan was the night Chris Eubank stopped Nigel Benn in their first fight in 1990. That is when it all started for me. And as I say, I was going through some videos, fights I've seen hundreds of times, and it dawned on me, today's heavyweight division, in my opinion, at the world level I'm talking world titles, is absolute garbage, in my opinion. Now, if you don't agree with me, feel free to disagree with me, I don't care. We're all entitled to opinions. I always say this, folks. We're all entitled to our opinions. Nobody's necessarily wrong. You're not a bad person if you disagree with somebody. This is what life's about. We're entitled to our opinions. We all have our own experiences. Now I've got that bit out of the way. Back when I was growing up, you had Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, Michael Moorer, Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, Tommy Morrison, Razor Ruddock. Even Big George Foreman was still hanging on and was in good fights back then. The Klitschko brothers turned pro in the 90s, late 90s. Even Andrew Golota was very entertaining. Very erratic and scary, and a bit unhinged at times. But he was entertaining, he was in some good fights. Even Frank Bruno, as us Brits, we loved Frank Bruno. Other people from other countries can't understand the love for Frank Bruno that we had. He was a hero over here. And the night he beat Oliver McCall in 1995, and finally won the world title on his fourth time of asking, it was pretty magical in this country, I'll tell you what. Even Herbie Hide, Oliver McCall, all these guys. It was an entertaining division. Now, I will say, it wasn't all perfect. Absolutely, it wasn't all perfect, because Bowe and Lewis never met as professionals. They met in the Olympics in 1988. You have to excuse me, my neighbour's using their shower and it makes a bit of a loud noise, so I've just shut the door. where was I? Yeah, they met in the Olympics in '88 in the gold medal final, and amateur boxing is amateur boxing. It's not the same. And Lewis got the win, and they were due to meet as professionals the night Bowe beat Holyfield. A classic fight, an absolutely classic fight again. Absolutely brilliant. If you've never seen the Bowe Holyfield trilogy, go and watch them, especially the first fight. Fantastic fight. And that fight never happened. Lennox Lewis was the #1 contender. Bowe infamously threw the WBC belt in the bin because he didn't want it. He didn't want to fight Lewis for whatever reasons. Rock Newman got blamed. I think it was a lot of factors. I don't think they wanted Lennox Lewis. They didn't want to get near Lennox Lewis for whatever reason. That's just what I think. That's just what I've seen and I've read. And it's just from what I've observed. Bowe and his team didn't want any part of Lennox Lewis. So Lennox Lewis got awarded the title, which everyone shit on at the time. And he was he beat Tucker and Jackson, and obviously he lost. Bruno, that fight with Bruno, again, a bit of history there. I remember watching it live. Bowe, Bruno and Lewis for the WBC. First time two Brits had fought for the heavyweight title ever, and it was a good fight. Frank Bruno put on the performance of his life in that fight, probably because Lewis underestimated him because of his past, and then Lewis took him out later on, and that was that. And then obviously Lewis lost it to McCall, and then Bruno took the title later on, and then lost it to Tyson. Oh, excuse me, I do apologise for that. And there was so many good fights. Tommy Morrison, he wasn't the best technically. He had a terrible chin. He used to lose a lot of the time when he moved up in competition. But he was exciting. Even Michael Moorer had his issues. His fight, and he lost the rematch to Holyfield after beating Holyfield in '94, and he got sparked out by George. Sorry, I'm getting all the names mixed up. George Foreman, which is a big stain on his legacy, obviously. George Foreman, oldest man to win the heavyweight title. I remember standing in a pub with my grandparents watching that. And it was like in Thailand. We were on holiday in Thailand at the time, and it was sort of the afternoon there, I believe. It's a long time ago. You have to forgive my memory. And it was like, wow. And to me, 45 seemed very, very old. It's only a few years older than I am now, folks. But it seemed very old, and I couldn't imagine an old man as I thought it was then. 45 to an 11-year-old is very old. So I remember watching it just being, oh my God, this is fantastic. And I don't know, I mean, the world scene now, like, I'm just comparing it to today. You've got Tyson Fury, who's held that WBC title hostage for the last 4 years, over 4 years. He's defended it, 3 times? Once against Wilder, the guy he took it from. Brilliant fight. That was a fantastic fight. Fight of the year that year. Brilliant. I can watch that over and over again. Fantastic. Dillian White, who in my opinion was fucking washed up by that point. And Derek Chisora, who is a walking punching bag. People love Del Boy. I like Del Boy. He seems like a nice enough guy, apart from the whole wife beating thing that happened once upon a time. Don't forget that, folks. He's not the nicest person in the world. But by that point, especially by that point, he didn't deserve the title shot. He was a fucking bum by that point. He's gone life and death with Gerald Washington since then, and Kubrat Pulev, who's my age. And they were both blowing like fucking steam trains by the second round. That wasn't a good look, in my opinion. That was a money fight. Again, it was a favour for a mate from Fury. And then he hasn't defended it since. So he went life and death again with Ngannou because he didn't bother training, as we know. And then there's all the hoo-ha. He's pulling out of fights. He's, ducking. He's being accused of ducking and diving Usyk. Now, Usyk doesn't get away with it. He's a fantastic fighter. I like Usyk. Very skilled. But he's had that belt for, 2.5 years. He's defended it twice. Once in a rematch with AJ, guy took it from, obviously, and Dubois last year. And then there was a whole hoo-ha about the low blow. Was it a low blow? Wasn't it? He can't take it to the body. He was playing fucking games. He went down and didn't want to get up, didn't want to fight, all this shit. Okay, in his defence, he spent most of his heavyweight career trying to chase Fury, especially the past couple of years. And Fury, as we know, and his team, for whatever reason, they don't want it. Now, I've said before, they're not scared of Usyk. I don't believe that at all. Fury doesn't want to fight people that will give him problems. He wants high reward, low risk. We know this. Any Fury fanboys watching this, if you disagree with me, don't bother arguing with me in the comments, because I won't reply to you, because we all know the truth. These basement dwellers who sit there wanking in their mum's spare room, who think Fury's the greatest heavyweight of all time. And this is the frustrating thing. Again, the 90s to now, they don't fight each other. It's all, they want a big bag of money. Don't get me wrong, it's prize fighting. Fighters want money. That's the idea. I get it. Of course I understand. They all want a payday. They always have done. That's why it's prize fighting. But now it's all about the big bag of money. That's why the Saudis have got involved, because they throw their millions at these guys to fight each other. And I just want to climb in a time machine and go back to the 1990s, where there was all these not even the world title fights. Ray Mercer, Tommy Morrison, all of those guys. It was entertaining. Lennox Lewis, Holyfield. People criticised Holyfield when he won the title from Douglas for his level of competition, but that's even better now than it is this shit we're putting up with now, because they don't want to fucking fight. We've got two guys who've got all the belts. I'm not going to include Manuel Char and his fight with fucking Pulev that's coming up in a couple of weeks, because that's bullshit. That was all a court case. Manuel Char's a fucking bum. He was never that fucking good, in my opinion. He's my age, for Christ's sake. He's got a fake hip, or I think he might have two fake hips. He hasn't fought for years, not at a good level anyway. And Klitschko beat him, and Povetkin beat him. So why is this guy walking around calling himself a world champion? WBA is fucking ridiculous. And Pulev's well past his best. So that's a fucking joke for a start to call, even call that a fucking world title fight. Usyk, in my opinion, in my eyes and everybody else's eyes, is the WBA heavyweight champion. It's bullshit. But they just don't want to fucking fight these guys. It's all gimmicks, like the Ngannou business. It's all gimmicks and bullshit, and calling each other out, but then nothing happens. We've just come from Ngannou, challenging AJ in the heavyweight division. And AJ blitzed him, and everyone's like, oh my God. He's not a fucking boxer. He's an MMA guy, but he's not a boxer. Again, I ranted about this before. I hate to keep going over it, but this is what the heavyweight divisions have come to. The top guys are fighting MMA guys. Why? An MMA guy. Why? It's bullshit. And everyone gets all excited, and they all tune in. They all spend their money on it. It's like, I don't know. Give me a time machine. Take me back to the 1990s. I want to go back to the 1990s heavyweights division, because it was exciting. The champions actually defended their fucking belts. They actually fought. They didn't give a shit, apart from Riddick Bowe. I will say that. I will always say that to the day I die. That fight should have happened, and it's a fucking travesty it didn't. And, it wasn't all perfect. Don't get me wrong. Of course it fucking wasn't. You had fucking Butterbean there, for Christ's sake. He was the ultimate gimmick at the time. But, Jesus, it gives me a fucking headache that today's heavyweight division, at the world scene, is a fucking joke and a fucking disgrace and a fucking disaster compared to what we had in the 90s. I will hold my hands up and I will say I've become my fucking granddad. He always used to say the 60s and 70s was better, and I will say the 90s is better than this shit we've got now. That's just my opinion. We'll see what happens. And I still say Fury Usyk doesn't happen. Something will happen before May the 18th, and it won't happen. I hope I'm wrong, but I've got a bad feeling. That's enough out of me, folks. Blood pressure's got a bit high. Take care. I'll speak to you soon.